Stock of the day, though, thought I'd take a look at WiseTech, the big logistics tech platform. Tech stocks rallying again today, and it's been a pretty common theme over the last couple of months. There's been the big focus on US tech stocks leading the market, and the S&P 500. It's sort of been a bit similar here in Australia, but only at the leading end. The likes of WiseTech, Xero, Ordinate, Altium, Technology One. So tech stocks that don't make any money, of course, have been left behind a bit. But WiseTech at a 5-year high at the moment. Mark Moreland, what do you reckon of WiseTech at the moment, the logistics group? Well, it's had a massive run.
It has. Well, we don't worry about runs, but the company itself is actually very good, and we've done quite a lot of work on it.
Right.
They've got about 30% net profit margin, which is what you should have as a technology company. Yep. A lot don't. So they're actually very good at converting. It's got a founder CEO who's an interesting character.
He's a great character. I love his story.
Yep.
Yes, I've told the story before, but he used to be run the logistics for AC/DC when they were touring. My brother-in-law was AC/DC's manager, so knew him very well back then. He said it just used to be all these spreadsheets, because logistics of an AC/DC global tour is absolutely massive as they leapfrog sort of 2 sets and all that sort of stuff, leapfrog cities. So he mastered that, and he was a wizard. Now he's built this ginormous company.
No, it's an absolute credit to him.
Yeah.
There's a lot to like about it. There's a couple of things we don't like, but overall it passes everything from our point of view in TeamInvest, and we're showing it returning. It's interesting. It's our predicted return at the current share price, which, as you said, it's at a record high at the moment. And the current PE, trailing PE, is 108.
Wow,
which
that's
is massive.
High, isn't it?
That's very high, but it's always had a high PE. Yeah. And if you look at the recent past, the highs have been about 130, the lows 50-ish. So a pretty big range. So it does move around a lot. So there's opportunities to buy it at a lower PE. Earnings growth is running at 37% a year. That's the average over the last 6 years, which is outstanding. Sales are growing at about 29. So that just shows you they've obviously got good operational efficiency in that as they add a new client, each one is more profitable than the last, because basically their cost price is fixed.
Right.
And what they are doing, which I think is really impressive, is they've clearly become global market leader in the whole international freight demurrage and all the documentation. It's all super complicated, and all the countries all have different tax rates and so on. And they have picked up, I think, 5. I haven't looked at it for a while, but like 5 of the biggest international freight forwarders and so on as clients. But in those cases, like I think FedEx is one of them, they implement their WiseTech program progressively by country. So they've got this massive runway of clients that are actually basically going, we're buying your system, but it's going to take us a decade to implement it, because it's such a big deal.
Wow.
And there's a big moat in this, because the reason it's going to take a long time to implement is because whatever they're doing now, they've got to get out of that into this, transfer it all. It's really
But they're
hard.
Prepared to do it.
Well, this is good.
So
and I think what it is their technology and their process is so much better. A lot of the other ones are very old. So it's not like they're going from a current technology, they're going from old stuff. And a lot of it was manual and spreadsheets and stuff like you were talking about. So we think it's got a very big runway. So it's going to stay on a high PE for a long time. Interestingly though, the return on our modelling, we've given it 33% per year at the current price going forward for the next 5 years if they continue doing what they're doing.
Right.
And that includes a terminal PE of, which is probably one of the issues, I'll just have a look and see what it is, 92.
Right.
So not that far away from where we are now.
Yeah.
If they keep growing at the sort of rate they're growing, I think they can maintain the high PE.
Right.
But they'll need to.
Right.
So there is a risk in that, So I'd rather lower PEs, but look, there's not many companies that have been growing at 30%.
With that sort of margin.
No. And the other thing is, on a margin of safety though, it brings it down to the return of 3.4, because what it does is it drops down the PE ratio to terminal 50, and it drops the earnings to 19.
Right.
So on our margin of safety, which is our most heavily discounted version. So a pretty big range. But I like it.
Okay.
So I'd have to say, even though it's had a run on price, I think it's still a buy.
Okay. So a couple of years ago, its governance, transparency was questioned by a whole bunch of short sellers, which proved to be wrong. And it looks as though they have put a lot of work into beefing up their board governance, transparency, things like that.
I mean, the short selling
so
thing,
you're happy with that?
I sort of fell for that when it first happened, because when there's the old saying, where there's smoke there's fire.
Yeah.
But you've got to be very careful paying any attention to what short sellers say unless you really go into it, and because a lot of them are trying to drive the price down.
Yeah.
So
they can profit.
And there was a UK one where they did, I forget the guy's name, but he actually did a whole video on it, and I watched it all. And he let the cat out of the bag at the end. He basically said that they were misrepresenting their results and their numbers, but it met all the required rules under GAAP accounting and so on. And you go, hang on. So what you're saying is they're reporting how they have to report it because the auditors make them report it that way.
Yeah.
And you're saying it's misleading, which it probably is, because that's, as Buffett says, GAAP is now 100% misleading.
Right.
That's what Buffett says.
Right. But it's the international
the point
standard.
But all you can do is do what the rules are.
Well,
and we know it with TeamInvest Private. If the auditor says you've got to do something and they say you have to state it this way or you have to take this out, put that in, you have no choice.
Yeah.
You have to do it, or else they won't sign the accounts off.
Yeah.
If they don't sign the accounts off, everyone goes, what?
Yep. So you're happy with the governance?
So I'd say BS to all that.
Right. Okay. Michael?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, without repeating, all I'll add is, they've had some issues in the past. You've just mentioned the short selling. There's been concerns that organic growth hasn't. A lot of people are looking at all the acquisitions and saying they're just growing by acquisition, but they've proven that they have been able to grow organically as well. And when they bolt on these new businesses, as Mark mentioned, they've got a fairly flat cost base. So they're even moving now into landside logistics as well, using their expertise there. I mean, the addressable market is still huge in front of them, and I know people used to say that a lot a couple of years ago with tech companies. This is the addressable market, and this is where these guys are. But WiseTech has proven to actually be able to expand into that addressable market. So all I'll add is the chart. Obviously, I look at charts. You can't beat that uptrend. I mean, it's as good as an uptrend as you'll get. So it's definitely a hold. In terms of buying, because of the high PE, every now and then, if the market gets a little bit worried about something, it can come off a bit because of that PE, but I think you use that as the opportunity to buy. So I don't think I'd be buying it here. I'd be waiting for some sort of opportunity to get it a bit cheaper if you can.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Yeah. Yep. All right, and it is just turned into one of these great Aussie tech companies. So
we don't have a lot of them actually, because
no.
the ones that have been really outstanding, which I think the other one's T&E.
Yeah.
And now T&E is now proven
one.
they've expanded in the UK successfily now.
Yep.
So that's the secret. I mean, it's
that's
very difficult
mean
from Australian companies to actually do. They do well here, and they own the market in about 10 years.
Yeah.
And then the only way to keep growth going is go overseas, and most of them falter.
Yeah.
At that point, that's the hard one. So WiseTech has proven. They've got international clients. They've bridged that already, and now their market is really big for them. So,
but your point, which I hadn't realised, that some of these big clients are only just at the start of implementing it, so they get massive growth in the existing client that could be over the next 10 years.
We learnt that through one of our members went out and interviewed clients.
Oh.
They found out clients they had and so on, went and talked to them and found out that was exactly what it was.
Wow.
And they were all happy, so there was you didn't get anything negative.
All right. WiseTech certainly shooting the lights out, but Michael Fearer